Hi everybody, greetings from Helsinki and welcome to this presentation, Expanding the Audience, the Rise of Massive Interactive Live Events. I'll cover a little bit about myself and Genvid Technologies. I'll talk about Massive Interactive Live Events, or MILES. Then I'll talk a little bit about spectator-centric design and the 3 levels of interactivity. I'll jump into Rival Peak, a multi-million-dollar collaboration we had with Facebook. And then if all goes according to plan, I'll do a live demonstration of Detroit that everyone on this stream will be able to interact with. In order for this to work, I'll need to create teams, so please fill your name in a spreadsheet that's linked in the chat. Then I'll close things out with Q&A. So my name is Christopher Hamilton. I'm the Director of Developer Relations in Europe for Genvid Technologies. I've been in the industry since 2007. Here are some of the better known companies that I've worked for on the left. I'm an American, but I used to live in St. Petersburg, Russia, and I've been living in Helsinki, Finland since 2014. I've mainly been in production and partner relation roles with lots of live ops experience at Rovio. I also feel very strongly about giving back to the community by working with various organizations, which you can see on the right. I'm on the boards of the IGDA and the Finnish Game Jam. I'm still very involved in the local IGDA chapter here in Finland. And my undergraduate degree was on the environment and media and raising awareness through science reporting. And so I'm looking at games as more of a modern media. And for this, I've been working with a number of companies and initiatives to work with charities and raise awareness through games. And I've been slowly building a special interest group for this under the IGDA umbrella. So if anybody's interested in any of this, do feel free to reach out to me later. Genvid Technologies was founded in 2016 by some Square Enix veterans. It is a US-based startup with offices in New York, Montreal, LA, Tokyo, London, and Berlin. The company is backed by some leading games VCs like Galaxy Interactive and Makers Fund, and we have people from both of those funds on our board. We also have amazing advisors like ex-Square Enix CEO Ichiwata, digital media executives Matt Ball and Andrew Snyder, Anna Sweet, who was instrumental in building Valve and Steam into what they are today, Cindy Holland, who was VP for original content at Netflix, and JT Gleason, who was at Twitch for more than 8 years in key roles leading both partner and developer relations. Our mission is to power the future of interactive media. We believe that people love shared experiences, particularly when their participation matters. Be it gaming, sports, reality TV, these are the events that become water cooler moments in the office, or maybe in these days, what people are chatting about in that random channel on Slack. But we're already working with top-tier platforms, leagues, and events to create these experiences. Games and traditional media are at an ongoing evolution of convergence as media is trying to become more engaging, like games are, and then games are trying to address larger audiences of spectators by creating non-gaming experiences and interactions for them. When talking about interactive streaming, it could be something like that Netflix Choose Your Own Adventure movie Bandersnatch, or it could be this broadcast of this presentation right now with people talking to one another, asking questions. Long story short, both sides are trying to become more interactive and increase their mass market appeal. And this is happening now. And game developers should really be thinking about this ongoing shift in paradigm and the new forms of gameplay that players and viewers can have together. And I'll touch on that later. We believe that interactive media will double the market size of the game industry. Currently, most developers are focused on monetizing the players, asking questions like, how do I make my players happy and how do I monetize them? And this is what the game industry is all about, and it's natural because that's the core of the industry's business. But when you look at the graph here, and these numbers were provided by Superdata, the orange part represents the game industry, which is growing, but slowly compared to the pink part, which shows interactive media, which is growing much faster. Until recently, game developers really didn't have a way to reach interactive streams. The only thing you could do with streams was use them as a marketing tool and hope that viewers would watch the streams, get interested in the game, and become players. With Genvid, you can be, as developers, part of both markets. With interactive live streaming, game developers can offer more immersive and interesting viewing experiences and monetize from them as well. So interactivity is the future of mass media content, and massive interactive live events, or what we call MILES, are the next step in this evolution, turning passive viewers into active participants. We seek to disrupt the traditional broadcast experience by offering increased interactivity and better viewer experiences for the widest audiences possible via our SDK and support services. MILES are cloud-powered, highly engaging, interactive live broadcast events that allow anyone to be part of a larger audience while directly participating in a meaningful way. Miles combine the best of lean-forward gaming, lean-back TV, and the thrill of live entertainment. Here, the audience will matter, and the individual can decide their own level of involvement or influence. Miles can be designed in a number of different formats and combine multiple styles that best fit the specific event. Twitch continues to post record quarters both in regards of hours watched and viewer counts on the platform. There's obviously some seasonality in the statistics, and clearly the ongoing global pandemic caused a spike in viewership, but there was significant growth before COVID-19, and it seems COVID has only accelerated these trends. So right now, we have a growing underserved market, and that is the viewer. Historically, developers have been focused on the players. They create great gaming experiences and know how to monetize them. And developers are only just starting to get comfortable with the idea of thinking as viewers as part of the ecosystem. And that's why this is really exciting for me to talk about it. I do feel that it's good to frame what we do by explaining what we are not, because what we're doing is new and we're often confused with other trends. So first, I'll say that we are not a streamer tool. We empower game developers to make viewer-centric experiences and new forms of gameplay and entertainment. We are not cloud computing. We are native cloud streaming. So we scale more cheaply than multiplayer servers. And then finally, we are not a platform. We're not competing with Twitch. We are a preferred Twitch partner. We are platform agnostic. We have games on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. All of these platforms have different audiences, and we feel it's very important for developers to choose the platform that best fits their game. So apologies to people in the audience who don't know anything about baseball, but in many ways, this highlights the point I'm trying to make here and explain why viewers are underserved and why we don't aim to be a streamer tool. Most streaming experiences look something like this. Streamers can only broadcast from the player's perspective. It is really difficult to follow what is happening in the game with just this view. Strategy, tactics, team coordination are all lost without giving the audience an understanding of the big picture of what's happening in the game. Now, I have no idea looking at this picture if this is an exciting moment or a pivotal moment in the game. As a viewer watching a game on Twitch, watching people stream games on Twitch, if I don't play that game myself, I have no idea what's going on, and therefore it's not particularly engaging. And that's really what this slide represents. It's important to note that game developers and not streamers are in the best position to address viewership of their games. Game developers have the ability to put in new camera angles and create interactive experiences that address the viewers. Professional sports are spectator-driven businesses, and game developers are only now starting to build spectator-centric value and tap into this audience. So we at Genvid are focused on that participant experience. By creating a value-driven participant experience that has multiple layers of engagement, where the viewers can affect what they are watching, we can create a really cool funnel that benefits everyone in the ecosystem, players, participants, and viewers alike. So players are the core demographic that developers are thinking about today. They're basically the only monetized segment today. Interactive viewers, again, another way of saying participants, they're an opportunity. Game developers make interactive experience towards players, but there's an opportunity in making interactive experiences for viewers. And spectators benefit from an enhanced, more enjoyable, and more understandable experience that will help drive fandom and value. So what does this mean? People go to stadiums to enjoy that rich experience. They get that through knowing and through understanding the game or the music if it's a concert, but they go to an event knowing that they are competent about what they are watching and excited about what they're going to watch because they understand what they're going to see. And so here are ways that we can add value and create enjoyment, competency, and fandom. So on the left part of the slide here, bird's eye camera angles, maps that can be toggled on and off, that can provide viewers with the big picture that I was talking about that was missing in that baseball slide. I can select a different angle. I can pull up live stats that help me follow my favorite player or compare my favorite player against other fan favorites. Jumping to the middle, unlike sports, video games are constantly evolving. We live in a world of live operations where the rules and the gameplay change over time. So it's important to inform the viewers what's going on and let them understand what they are watching. This is also super important to get novices, back into the game. And then finally, viewer interactions where the viewer can reach out and touch the game and affect what's happening by providing a player a lifeline by maybe sending some extra health or impeding or trolling them by setting some traps. When talking about the different types of interactivity, we like to structure our thinking a little bit. So there are three different tiers. The first of which is informational. And again, this is just giving viewers information. And the goal here is to have a competent viewer who understands what they're watching. So like being able to adjust the volume knob on a traditional broadcast, you should be able to adjust things like statistics and data, being able to toggle things on and off, like what's in a player's inventory, or maps that show where the players are and where they're moving on those maps. This is just data that's sent along with the video stream. The next tier is customizable, and this is the idea that you have different demographics and interest groups watching your game and giving each of those groups a native experience. So it could be a localized version in their own language, or it could be allowing them to cater information to a specific team or player that the audience is following. It could be something like giving some different camera or different language options. In esports, we're already being segmented with, say, English or Korean specific channels. This helps create that home and away feeling that shoutcasters talking about specific teams. So the easiest way to think about this is custom cameras and data feeds with separate chat or cheering functions. But again, this is just web overlay on top of video, so it's not that hard to implement. And then finally, this is where game developers usually jump to first, and that is the influential tier. This is where viewers can reach out and touch the game and have an effect on the player experience, be it through cheering or something more impactful. It could be something nuanced, like a cheering that buffs the NPCs or a boss character and it makes them more powerful, and the viewers enjoy that because they're impacting the game, but maybe the players also get better loot and drops as a result. It could be something super impactful, like buying a grenade and throwing it into the middle of the match and seeing what that does. Or maybe sending in supply drops and watching players race after all the goods. We start with the informational tier because it's the easiest to implement. It's just exposing data and putting in a web overlay. Customizable takes time to figure out optimal camera angles. It can be tricky with working with developers that are late in the development process. Maybe they didn't draw the entire world because parts of the world players wouldn't see, so there was no need to draw them. But now we're putting in a camera that might expose that, so some of that has to come into consideration. And then obviously influential is the hardest. It takes time and effort to figure out the best player balance and enabling viewer inputs that affect the game in a way that doesn't destroy the player experience or negatively impact the player experience. So why do you want to do this? Because if you can build an audience and fandom, you can monetize it. And maybe it's a way to attract more players. Both informational and customizable tiers can be put behind a paywall or paid for by a sponsor, monetized through ads. If you do have that fandom, you can sell gear. The influential tier opens up possible microtransactions where viewers could be buying consumables or cosmetics that affect their experience as well as everyone around them. And at least as sometime in 2020, 590 million bits have been cheered on Twitch. And so this empowers the viewer to become active participants in the ecosystem and helps drive the massive interactive live events that I was talking about earlier. Counter-Strike Majors are the most watched esports event globally, and Twitch wanted to use the majors to start building out non-advertising revenues for esports tournaments. And so they saw Genvid as the only suite of interactivity that could justify a premium subscription. So Genvid enabled 11 interactive channels, allowing them to switch between all of the players. And then they had access to real-time maps and real-time statistics, and it was a $10 package that they sold for each tournament. And now I'll jump to Rival Peak. December 2nd, Facebook debuted a new, unique interactive reality show called Rival Peak, and it got a lot of attention from both industry insiders and the general media. And so I'll start with a quick overview and some statistics, and then I'll explain some of the elements in greater detail. So the project ran from December 2nd to March 3rd, with more than 100 million minutes being watched. We had 55 times the amount of minutes watched between week 1 and week 13, which perhaps isn't the best indicator since Facebook didn't start marketing the game until week 3 as we were testing for stability and bugs, but you can see there's quite a jump between week 4 and week 13 as well. These were the types of interactions that the audience could engage with. Most people engaged with the storyline by reading the dialogues, but other interactions were taking place as well. Project Power-Ups, Match 3, and Memory Games were other audience participation events and ways that viewers could participate. And we added a number of things, like a map and leaderboards and achievements to help gamify the experience as the weeks progressed. Here are just some basic demographics. Top 5 countries were the United States, Mexico, Brazil, India, and the Philippines. And this experience is streaming from 13 different Unity instances in the cloud. And so it works very well on low-end Android devices without having to optimize for them. And that's why we have such strong numbers in some of these countries. The experience is much more like a very casual game. And I started my career making hidden object puzzle adventure games. So I was quite surprised that men actually edged out women in terms of the audience here. I was also personally surprised that there are so few people using Facebook on PC these days. And I need to note here that iOS support wasn't actually added to this until halfway through the event. Basically, Facebook saw that there was a huge amount of people engaging with the event and they really needed to add the support, and people were complaining and asking for it. And so power to the people, that all happened. And now I'll explain a little bit more about Rival Peak itself. Rival Peak is powered by Genvid Technologies with design and creative from Pipeworks Studios and DJ2 Entertainment. And while Rival Peak looks like a game, it is the culmination of a decade's worth of efforts to create the world's first native cloud streaming experience. Rival Peak isn't a game, rather it is a massive interactive live event. Rival Peak is built on the idea that interactive stories should be based around the entire audience and not just a single viewer. That your decision should have consequences to you and to everyone in the audience. That there are no do-overs, there's no pausing, there's no way to know who's going to win. And during its 13-week run, the world of Rival Peak never stopped. Its characters were constantly in motion, and the story unfolded as the audience participated and played along. Facebook lacks an extension program like Twitch, but it does have the world's leading HTML5 platform. So we worked with Facebook Gaming to use an HTML5 video player to put the live streams from our tech into 13 different Facebook instant games, and then we linked them all together to reach Facebook's 2 billion users around the world instantly. Nothing to download or install, and as I mentioned, it works well on low-end Android devices that are a pain for any development team to support, so this was highly accessible. As a mile, Rival Peak is made up of 3 components. The first is the Facebook Instant Game, which, as I mentioned, is 13 instant games all linked together. And that's one for each AI character stream and one for the main home stream that was sort of cycling through all of the different contestants or AI characters. It is a persistent world, and this part of the mile is similar to the reality show Big Brother, where the audience can watch and follow what all the contestants are doing 24/7. The contestants are driven by a sophisticated AI that was developed by Pipeworks Studios, and voting takes place through audience participation events, or APEs, which are various user interactions that I touched upon a bit in the intro slides, and I'll demo in a second. The contestant, that is the AI character in the mile with the lowest score at the end of each week, is eliminated. So the audience votes by engaging with the instant game. The second part of this mile is Rival Speak. And that was a Facebook Watch original companion show that was hosted by Will Wheaton. And that guided the audience deeper into the world, its secrets, and its characters. This show was actually much more like Lost, with a very complex storyline filled with conspiracy theories and total craziness dreamed up by the team at DJ2 Entertainment. The narrative series, it sort of serves as the experience's metagame, so to say, as people are coming back. And it was more than just a weekly wrap-up show of what happened. Will interviewed some of the contestants to provide more of their background stories, and he set up the story for the next week. And again, Will and the producers didn't know who was going to get eliminated week by week, so it was a truly crazy production schedule that I'll also touch upon later. And then finally, there's the social platform of Facebook itself with the Rival Peak page. And there were several fan pages that also provided additional information and ways for the audience to follow what was happening and get more information on the contestants. It used to be that people would live tweet their reactions to premium shows like Game of Thrones. Here it's happening all right on Facebook's platform. So before I jump into the demo, I want to get you up to speed with what's happening in the sim. It is running in sort of a rerun mode now. There are not that many people actively engaged with it because it's not being advertised by Facebook. But ultimately, this is really challenging because how does one summarize Lost in just a few minutes? But it's still fairly early. I'll do what I can. When Rival Peak began on December 2nd, it looked like a digitally animated reality TV show. There were 12 AI contestants, each with different backgrounds, fighting to survive in the Pacific Northwest. Then things started to get weird. Jeb, he's the big guy in the back here that kind of looks like a lumberjack. Jeb, he saw a haunted floating axe in camp. Antonio started to have very strange dreams, and then maybe all of the contestants were having the same strange dream. The audience, through their participation, helped the contestants to traverse a map, only to have the group split by a landslide. And they ran through haunted woods, discovered a secret bunker, and basically were forced into a post-apocalyptic wasteland by a mudslide. Fans began to piece together that there was much too strangeness, much too coordination, that the mysterious Tangram Labs, the so-called sponsors of Rival Peak, might have more sinister motives. And I guess with that, I will jump right into the game. And you can see that this is loading fairly instantly. And this is basically the title screen, the entry screen. You've got a sort of message of the day thing that pops up. There's a Facebook multiplier here. You can see my little Facebook image here. These are the characters of the contestants that I have contributed the most to. Here's kind of where the leaderboards and achievements are. This is available in eFigs. You'll notice I have the sound effects turned down, in part because I like listening to Winter because each of these characters have their own soundtracks, and Winter has very cool electronic music, and I would often just be engaged with her stream while I was working, and it was a way for me to give Winter some points in the system. And I mean, I have everything muted here. There are several cutscenes that took place for everything that was sort of happening through the game, so it's kind of interesting to go back and look at those really cool animations. And then the Rival Speak show with Will Wheaton. Even if you don't really engage so much with the instant games, this was super crazy, bat crazy, man. It was just insane, but a lot of fun to watch and be part of. They're basically dialogues that you can follow and run through. They have recap dialogues as well, but this is kind of most of the way and kind of a retention thing where people come in for the storyline and get all these characters talking to one another and doing kind of cool things. And kind of just getting the whole narrative and everything through. Just really kind of understanding the cool storyline. And then there's this cool map that you can see. You've got at this point, all 10 characters, all 10 existing characters here in Zone 2. And then, actually, they're all still at the Riverside camp, which is, this is fairly early on in the game, as this was restarted. We're day 21. So this is the third week of the experience. And so you can see that we have two characters, Karen and Lillian here, that have been removed or taken out of the game. And then we can choose any of these characters. I'll pick Winter because, again, I thought she was pretty cool. And this is now Winter's view. Everybody's in the same camp. There is sort of I can be involved in the daily vote, but I can't actually take it because I need to engage with somebody that needs to do some things. So I will tap on Jeb because he's got something going on, which I can see with the exclamation point here. And what is he doing here? He's just trying to get warm by that fire. And I can engage with him. This is an audience participation event here. I just tap on this and I'm speeding up his process of getting warm. With this, Jeb is earning some points. And now I guess he needs to go hydrate. And so, here we go. So there's a goal that we can do here where I know he needs to hydrate. Hydration's pretty low. He needs to get some nourishment as well. But of the things, I'll be nice. I'll say, okay, go hydrate, vote and play. I get to do this sort of match game. Just quickly do a couple of these. This is, I guess, the easiest match game of all time. Anyways, you get the idea of what this is. This gets points. It earns points for Jeb. It also speeds up the whole thing. In 120 minutes, my vote and a whole bunch of other people's votes will get tallied, and then he'll decide as to whether we're going to do that or not. In the meantime, I've unlocked the daily vote now, and gosh, I don't want everybody to be sad. I guess I'll vote that everybody should be happy. So I'll submit that in for my daily vote. And then actually Winter has some things going on. I'll see if I can come back in 50 seconds. Winter is chopping this tree again to, store some wood, which I guess everybody needs. Helps to keep those fires going to keep the contestants warm. And this kind of interaction, this very light touch fishbowl type thing, I like to call it an ant farm where you can kind of poke the ants a bit. This is exactly the kind of thing that Facebook wanted. This was sort of largely built by spec for them. And other projects that we have in the pipeline now are a little more interactive and this sort of thing. Just jump back to Jeb here. And again, when we do this, we're jumping to different live streams. And the answer is, let's see, is he going to hydrate? Is he going to socialize maybe? Source some water? 7 more seconds to figure this out. The answer is hydrate. So he'll go off and find some water, do his thing. It's interesting that you'll just see, or just drink water that he's got in his canteen. But you'll see that like people will just stand there kind of with a thoughtful look on their face, and that's kind of what in there. What should I do next? And the audience can kind of jump in and help decide those things. And so that's basically it from this. I will put this back into full screen mode and get back to the presentation. Stephen Bagage is the creative director of DJ2 Entertainment, and he is known for his narrative work on several Telltale games, such as Tales of the Borderland, The Walking Dead Season 2, The Wolf Among Us. And he said what happened here with Rival Peak represents an evolution in narrative creation. It goes beyond dialogue tree manipulation, where players are typically voting on dialogue choices. In Rival Peak, the viewers are interacting with a more physical evolution of what these characters are doing, and then that in turn influences the dialogue. So you're not directly voting on who's going to say what, you're influencing the characters as they sort of pass through the world, and then that influences the story. It was challenging to make the Rival Speak video on demand show because the timelines were very tight. It's complex. They never knew who was going to get eliminated. So Stephen had to create a framework for the story that would have taken into account character eliminations and the fact that they were completely out of their hands. And it was just a challenge. So they came up with some clever tricks to effectively preserve dialogues. So we've got 2 characters that are eliminated now. And this is a bit of a spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't played and wants to jump in. But sort of at the midpoint, 6 of the eliminated characters end up in the secret bunker. And so any 2 dialogues that happen between those 2 characters that end up in the bunker could be reused or quickly adapted to fit the current storyline. So imagine watching a sporting event and you're yelling at a team or a player, but you're actually able to have an impact on that outcome. I think both collectively and individually, the audience members influence numerous aspects of Rival Peak. In both ways, big and small, from affecting the weather to accelerating tasks and choosing goals. The viewers drive the plots and the subplots in real time as they experience everything. These instances of audience influence are audience participation events, or what we call APEs, Project Apes involve environmental hazards and puzzles and obstacles that are either resolved or advanced once per day. Typically, they're in a specific area or region. They involve a visible state change over time, and these Project Apes can range from smaller things like clearing debris or setting up tents to more elaborate tasks like building a bonfire or building a bridge. In any case, viewers can choose by helping. They can choose to help the characters by getting involved and engaged in some of these mini games and tapping to get involved in the project at hand. Action apes are similar to the project apes, but smaller on a more personalized scale. Another key difference is that action apes are accelerated by viewer taps or mini games, while project apes often involve multiple characters' participation. Action apes are specific to a single resident of Rival Peak, and action apes include things like reading a book or picking fruit, studying a complex object like a statue. Yeah, the storyline gets crazy, I have to say. And it can all be accelerated by viewers by as much as 100% because they involve a single AI character. They involve fewer viewers, and not all the viewers will be following a single character at a given time. So typically they require less taps proportionately. And then we have goal apes. And that's an instance in which the audience members follow a particular AI character and they can vote on which goal that character should pursue next. And we had that before when we had Jeb Hydrate. Each of these 12 characters in Rival Peak have their own live stream channels with audience members able to follow them and jump from one to another. And every so often, that character will just sort of stand still, assume that thoughtful pose, and then you can kind of tell them or vote for what they're going to do next. Viewers following that character's stream will then have a couple minutes to choose the goals, nourishment or whatever, and then viewers cast their vote and then get bonus points if they end up voting for the majority goal. So although we knew what some of the rival speech segments would be in advance, we really didn't know who was going to get eliminated each week because it was determined by user engagement. As a result, we had to rapidly change dialogue, scenes, animations to release rival speak each week. So a typical week had a lot of changes based on user interactions. User scores were counted from Saturday to Friday. Then there was a cutoff for the upcoming episode on Friday evenings that gave the team the weekend to sort of adjust everything. They shot Will on Monday. Production and editing took place on Tuesdays. Then on Wednesdays, the instant game went into a brief downtime to allow the team to upload the next week's worth of content. And then an episode of Rival Speak would air at 6 p.m. Pacific, followed by new streams of the contestants at 6:30 p.m. We had QA and marketing teams working 24/7 to respond to user issues, post new content on the character pages on Facebook, ensure that the streams were just up and healthy. We also had 24/7 live operation teams to fix the streams if anything would happen or to push new code to the instant game if there was a bug. I remember one time the AI got stuck following a wolf or something for 20 minutes. It was a little weird. So miles are new. And the Rival Peak tech stack is unique. It was a technical challenge to build all of this in the middle of a global pandemic. So we held off on marketing for the first 2 weeks so that we could just do bug testing and learn and adjust. We understood that we clearly needed to explain to new users what they needed to be doing. Many users discover Rival Peak through the live streams, which just sat on top of the Rival Peak page. And the live streams were originally just a clean feed meant to be watched inside the instant game, but the streams without the game's UI led to a lot of confusion. We thought video descriptions and comments would suffice, but they didn't. Within a few days of launch, we created a lower third dialogue explaining what was happening that you can see here on the left. But that wasn't enough, and then we switched to this really big in-your-face CNBC-like banner with an explanation of how to get to the instant game and this week's events and more information. But that was a huge transition that it took us a while to figure out. We always thought that there was enough interactivity for the audiences, and for most fans it was. But many people still like to interact with a human too, I think. That is the appeal to watching streamers. It's less about the game and more about the streamer. And we're really trying to empower video game developers to control this aspect of everything. But around Christmas, we started experimenting with having co-streamers who would guide the audience through the newest updates and read and perform character dialogues and have their own impact on the game. And this ended up being a huge success. At first, thousands were watching live and they could all cheer and coach on the co-streamer. And so it felt a little bit more like a traditional live broadcast, but quickly the audience started joining in live. And then you had the audience, the co-streamer, the AI characters all collaborating in real time in a shared simulation to decide the fate of Rival Peak. It was quite interesting, and it became a nightly thing, at least for audiences in the Western Hemisphere. Like all good developers, we listened to our users. We got floods of requests for iPhone support, and Facebook made it happen. So power to the people again. There were a lot of other tweaks, like a map that shows where the contestants are, and then integrating links to show right on the main page. We added a bunch more mini games for the action apes. It was originally only the memory matching games. And so, like we say, please keep the feedback coming because your participation matters. Now, I just want to give you a little inspiration for everyone in the audience. Rival Peak was spawned by Pipework Studios in Oregon, and they originally made a robust AI game with 10 people stranded on an island fighting to stay alive. And people in their office were just transfixed watching this thing play out over and over again, seeing which of these 10 AI people would be the last kind of person surviving. Ultimately, they made a demo for us that's pictured here. And in this demo, viewers could jump in and sort of play God and tip the scale for one player or another by tossing things in, be it medicine to help a person or things that could like injure a person. And this was intriguing for Facebook, who picked it up, and then we started working together, and it evolved into this multi-million-dollar project. We have all sorts of people experimenting with this tech for a variety of reasons, and for the most part, people are excited about the potential our tech provides. It's like they love being early adopters. They love experimenting with new forms of gameplay. They love engaging with out-of-the-box design thinking and create interplay between players and viewers and balancing so that it scales properly. And they also like the idea of reaching potential new audiences and monetizing them. So here I want to give Sharp Raccoon a shout out today because I know, at least at the time of this recording, they're planning on attending the event and even be there on the physical day. And they said, quote, "This technology allows us to follow our passion for making fun and crazy social multiplayer experiences, and it also puts us on the forefront of a cutting-edge game technology, which dramatically increases our fundraising avenues." These guys received a grant from Innovation Norway to explore streaming interaction in brawler games. It was one of the key points of interest for their first investors, and it set them apart from being just another indie game developer. Mostly in terms of interest for the investors in terms of risk and reward. And you can see their arena brawler here. Other teams that are using our tech include a mid-sized company that licensed a brand to help boost their game and lower UI costs, and they made a test integration. And the lead designer just said more eyes on the brand and the game is a win for all the parties involved. We've got another team that's focused on establishing and building an IP, and they have been busy designing a universe that they plan to use for 2 or 3 different games. And they think Genvid will not only help their games, but will help them monetize their whole universe with new forms of entertainment. And then there are numerous companies that are focused on making new narrative-driven games and love the possibilities that we've unlocked for them. We have great relationships with our investors, as well as our platform partners. We recently raised a Series C round of $113 million to build an entertainment company. And while we're not currently funding any game projects, this does mean we're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And moreover, we have a proven track record of helping our teams find funding for their projects. I think the best part of my job is working with game developers and helping them figure out game design challenges and working on investor pitch decks and how they can position their games and this sort of thing. So that's kind of the fun part of my job. So Retroit by Black Block is yet another adopter. And if everything goes according to plan, we'll be jumping into that demo as I will go live shortly. But here's a quick introduction. Welcome to the city of Retroit. Retroit is an in-development, mobile-first MMO where thousands of players will live together in an always online persistent city. It is being developed by BlackBlock, a Helsinki-based mobile game studio. They are using Godot engine. And while we have native plugins and support for Unity and Unreal, we've successfully integrated into Godot, Lumberyard, now known as the Open 3D engine, and 5 other custom engines. Retroit will ultimately be released on iOS and Android. Android is currently in soft launch, was currently in soft launch in Finland, and Twitch Interactivity, powered by Genvid, is being tested today. BlackBlock was interested in having basic interactivity in a persistent online world. They are huge fans of MMOs, and having this other additional entry point for them was important. In this case, Genvid is powering interactive streaming on Twitch. Again, we're platform agnostic. But again, this is an always-on entry point with zero friction, with nothing to download or install. The mobile client, however, is still under heavy development. And that's what the team is really focused on now. The experience that you'll see here is not indicative of the current iteration of the mobile clients. The interactive streaming component on Twitch was made as a technical demo to show off basic interactions and promote BlackBlock, Genvid, and Retroit. As a technical demo, it lacks gameplay. It was designed as a proof of concept for basic interactivity, and this one allows for multiple users to engage in it simultaneously, which is why I'm demoing it here. It is not a standalone game, although BlackBlock has numerous ideas of how they want to split this out and build out that whole part of the game. For now, I'm going to split you into 3 different teams and attempt to make this demo into a bit of a competition. So please be sure that you've entered your name in the spreadsheet that was posted in the chat. And first and foremost, I'll reiterate that this is a technical demo. Lacks gameplay, was designed as a proof of concept for basic interactivity, but it still gives you, the audience, a chance to learn more about the basic sort of lean back, lean in experiences that Genvid can provide through Miles, these massive interactive live events. A couple important caveats. Points are held in your browser, so please be sure you're not in incognito mode or private mode. Please don't use multiple tabs or browsers, or you will likely lose any money that you've earned in the experience. And then when the competition is over, take some time to explore the world, look at different cameras, experiment both in terms of lean back and lean in aspects. And I'll be posting a link to a short survey that will go to the developers, and your feedback will help them sort of prioritize things. So how do you play a game when there isn't any gameplay yet? So here's the deal. You're split into 3 teams. There will be Team Soccer Ball, Team Pinata, and Team Cash Truck. At some point, I will say go, and the teams will start collecting points in the crash report. I'll run you through the tutorial in a second just to explain all of that. But your goal as a team is to drop items worth 1,800 points. So for Team Soccer Ball, that is 12 soccer balls. For Team Pinata, it's 6 pinatas. And for Team Cash Truck, it is 4 cash trucks. I have a dashboard here so I can follow the drop count in real time. Again, Team Soccer Ball, 12 soccer balls. Team Pinata, 6 pinatas. And Team Cash Truck, 4 drops. And with now that, we're ready to end this recording. We'll go live, and we'll see how this goes. Fingers crossed. Thank you.